I was 24 when I took a weekend trip to the Florida Keys with my best friend, Marissa. It was supposed to be one of those easy little getaways where you drink too much, lay in the sun, and pretend you don't have a job waiting for you back home on Monday. We found a cheap vacation rental in Key Largo. It wasn't fancy, but it looked clean in the photos. Small yellow house, screened porch, little canal out back, and a dock that stretched into dark water. The listing said it was peaceful and private, which should have been the first red flag, because in my experience, places that advertise how private they are usually private for a reason. We got there around sunset. The neighborhood was quiet, almost weirdly quiet. There were houses nearby, but they were spaced out, and most of them looked dark. The owner had left a keypad code, so we let ourselves in and started unpacking. The inside smelled faintly like mildew and bleach. Not enough to make us leave, but enough to notice. Marissa laughed it off and said every Florida rental smells like it's one storm away from being underwater. That first night, everything felt normal. We got takeout, sat out on the screened porch, and listened to the water hitting the posts under the dock. Around midnight, though, I heard a metallic clink from outside. At first, I thought it was just the wind moving something around. Then I heard it again. Clink, pause, clink. I got up and looked through the back door toward the canal. The porch light didn't reach all the way to the dock, but I could see enough to tell something was moving down there. Not fast, slow, careful. I called Marissa over, and by the time she came to look, the movement had stopped. She told me it was probably a rope or a loose chain hitting one of the posts. I wanted to believe that, so I locked the back door, checked it twice, and went to bed. The next morning, we found a fishing knife sitting on the dock. Neither of us owned one. It wasn't rusty or old either. It looked recently used with a black handle and a little smear of something dried along the blade. Marissa said maybe a fisherman left it there before we arrived, but what bothered me was that the dock was part of the property. To reach it, someone would have had to come onto the rental. We moved it onto a table on the porch and tried not to think about it. That night, we went into town for drinks and got back late. I remember feeling good for maybe 5 minutes, right up until I opened the sliding glass door and saw the knife was gone. I asked Marissa if she moved it. She said no. The table was empty. I don't know why that bothered me as much as it did, but it instantly changed the mood. It felt less like some random forgotten object and more like someone had come back for it. We checked the house. Everything looked fine. No sign of forced entry, no missing bags, nothing out of place. So once again, we told ourselves we were being dramatic. At around 2:30 in the morning, I woke up because Marissa was whispering my name from the doorway of my room. Not calling, whispering. I got up and asked what was wrong. She just pointed toward the back of the house. I walked into the kitchen. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed the screened porch door was slowly opening and shut. We had locked it. As we stood there staring, we heard footsteps on the wooden dock outside. Heavy, slow footsteps. Then a knock on the back glass. 3 knocks. Very calm. We both froze. Then a man's voice from the dark said, "You girls found my knife." I swear every hair on my body stood up at once. Marissa grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. We backed away from the kitchen without making a sound. The voice came again, a little louder this time. "I just want to talk." We locked ourselves in the bathroom and called 911. While we were on the phone, we heard movement in the house, not outside, inside. The dispatcher kept asking if we were sure someone had entered, and then through the bathroom door, we heard a drawer open in the kitchen, then another, then footsteps moving slow across the tile. He was inside. The police got there in less than 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. By the time they cleared the house, nobody was there. One of the officers found the back porch screen had been sliced open near the bottom corner, just enough for someone to reach through and unlock it from the inside. Nothing had been stolen, But on the kitchen counter, right in the middle where we would immediately see it, was that same black-handled fishing knife. I have never gone back to the keys. And to this day, I still think about how he said it. Not angry, not rushed, just calm, like he had all night. The second story happened to my cousin in Central Florida, just outside Ocala. She had just moved into a duplex on the edge of a wooded area. The place was cheap, which was the only reason she could afford it, and it came with one of those little gravel driveways and a backyard that basically turned into forest after 20 feet. She lived alone with her dog, Moose, a big mixed breed who barked at everything. At first, that made her feel safer. Then it became the reason she knew something was wrong. The first week she lived there, Moose started going to the back sliding door every night around the same time, a little after 11, and growling. Not barking, growling. She would go look and never see anything. The backyard was dark except for a weak floodlight attached to the house, and beyond that was just trees. She figured it was raccoons or deer. Then one morning she found muddy footprints under her bedroom window. Not animal prints, bare human footprints. That scared her enough to call the landlord, but he brushed it off and said kids probably cut through the property from the woods. That didn't even make sense. There were no nearby streets, no schools, no reason for kids to be wandering behind random duplexes at night, barefoot. She bought a cheap motion camera online and pointed it at the backyard. For 2 nights, it recorded nothing except Moose pacing near the door. On the 3rd night, she got an alert on her phone just after midnight. The clip was only 10 seconds long. It showed the backyard in grainy black and white. At first, there was nothing. Then, from the tree line, a person stepped partly into frame. Not all the way, just enough to show one shoulder, part of a face, and one eye reflecting white in the infrared. The person stood there completely still. Then the clip ended. She sent the video to me, and even through the bad quality, it made my stomach turn. There was something wrong with how still that person was. It didn't look like someone casually passing through. It looked like someone who had been standing there for a while already, just outside where the camera could catch them. She called the police, and they took a report, but basically said there wasn't much they could do from one unclear video. The next night, Moose wouldn't leave her bedroom. He stayed pressed against the door, low growling, ears back. Around 1 a.m., she heard a tapping on the bedroom window. 3 soft taps. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. The window was on the 2nd floor. That was the part that made no sense. She lived in the upstairs unit. There was no porch roof outside that window, nothing for someone to stand on. She called 911 while sitting on the floor with Moose. The operator told officers were on the way and asked if she could safely look outside. She said no. She was crying by then, whispering because she thought whoever was out there might hear her. Then the tapping stopped. A few seconds later, she heard something dragging slowly across the roof. Police found nobody outside, but the next morning they came back with baylight and noticed deep scratch marks on the shingles below the bedroom window, like someone had placed and pulled away a ladder. The woods behind the duplex were searched, and about 30 yards back, officers found a little campsite, tarp, empty food cans, water bottles, and women's clothing hanging from a branch. None of it belonged to my cousin. The creepiest part was that tucked inside one of the cans was a folded Polaroid photo. It was blurry, taken at night from outside her kitchen window. You could see my cousin standing at the sink, unaware she was being photographed. She moved out that week. She never found out who had been out there, how long they had been watching, or whether the person actually got inside. But for months after, she refused to sleep in a room with uncovered windows. Honestly, I don't blame her. The last story is the one that messed me up the most because it happened to me. A few years ago, my girlfriend and I took a short trip to St. Augustine. We stayed in an older inn a few streets back from the tourist area. The place had charm if you liked old buildings, but to me it felt off the second we walked in. Not haunted, just watched. The hallway outside our room was narrow and dim, with old carpet that muffled every sound. Our room was on the first floor near the side entrance. The clerk checking us in was friendly enough, but he kept glancing toward the security monitor behind the desk like he was distracted by something. That first night, we walked around the historic district, got dinner, then came back around midnight. As we were passing the desk, the overnight clerk asked what room we were in. I thought that was odd because hotels usually know that already. My girlfriend answered before I could, and the guy just smiled and said he wanted to make sure our keys were working. When we got to the room, there was a folded towel on the floor just inside the door. We definitely hadn't left it there. I checked the bathroom, thinking housekeeping somehow came in late, but nothing else was different. We were tired, so we ignored it. At around 3 a.m., I woke up because I heard our doorknob jiggle. Not a loud shake, just a slow turn, like someone testing whether we'd locked it. I sat up immediately. My girlfriend was asleep beside me. The knob moved again, then stopped. I got out of bed, looked through the peephole, and saw nobody. The hallway was empty. I stood there for maybe a minute before going back to bed, but I barely slept after that. The next day, we spent most of the afternoon out. When we came back, the air conditioner in our room was off, even though we'd left it running. Again, not terrifying by itself, but then my girlfriend noticed her makeup bag had been unzipped and moved to the other side of the sink. I started to feel that same ugly certainty you get when your brain realizes something before you want to admit it. I went down to the front desk and asked if anyone had entered our room. The clerk said no. I asked if they kept logs for keycard access. He hesitated for a second too long, then said the manager would have to check. That night, I pushed a chair under the doorknob. At 2:17 a.m., according to my phone, something hit the door hard enough to make the chair scrape across the floor. My girlfriend bolted upright. Before I could even stand, someone on the other side began knocking. Not normal knocking. 3 hard bangs. Pause. 3 more. Then a male voice said, "Open up, front desk." I didn't answer. A few seconds later, the voice came again, flatter this time. "I know you're awake." That line made my blood run cold. I called 911 while my girlfriend whispered that we should go out the window. We were on the first floor, but the window only opened a few inches. While I was talking to dispatch, we heard the sound of a keycard swipe at the door. Then another. Then another. Whoever it was trying different cards. The chair held, but the handle pushed down hard enough to rattle the whole door. The dispatcher told us officers were already on the way and to stay quiet. The person outside stopped moving for maybe 20 seconds. Then, very softly, they laughed and walked away. Police arrived and searched the property. They didn't find anyone in the hallway, but they reviewed the security footage with the manager. According to them, a man in maintenance clothes had been seen near our room twice that night, even though no maintenance worker was scheduled. The worst part came later. When the manager checked the electronic access logs, our room had been opened earlier that afternoon using a master key. Not by housekeeping, not by management. That master key had been reported missing 2 weeks earlier. We left before sunrise and checked into a chain hotel off the highway. I didn't care how ugly it was. I just wanted somewhere bright, busy, and impossible for someone to quietly study us. I still think about that voice outside the door sometimes. Not because he tried to get in, because he knew we were inside, awake and scared, and he sounded like he was enjoying it.